Okay, that's in. That carries unanimously. And we don't have any delegations, but we have a service area update. And Mr. Burke will fill in that role today.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. I will temporarily fill in for this. Some updates I wanted to provide from Community Connections in support of the National Wrestling Championships. We're joining some bi-weekly meetings. The Grande Prairie is happy to host up to 500 athletes, coaches, and officials, U15, U17, U19, in a competition from April 23rd to the 26th at our very own Design Work Centre. We're also hosting the Alberta Association of Recreation Facility Personnel Conference in April. This conference is for operational staff in recreation facilities, including pool operators, arena operators, and others. And we'll be proud to show off our facilities to many in that field from across the province. Also, the Legion Field construction project is just about to begin, which includes reconfiguration of the jumping terrain, upgrades to the media tower, and other improvements. This is all beginning to kick off this week with some planning, and the work is set to begin later this spring. At InvestGP, they attended the ICSC conference where staff made connections with industry, looking for opportunities to bring new businesses to Grande Prairie. This event shares the latest trends in shaping spaces where consumers shop and purchase goods. Also wanted to highlight that 2 new doctors were welcomed to the city this week, an anesthesiologist and a nephrologist, intensivist and internist, and this is we're happy to support with council support to bring new physicians to the great city of Grande Prairie. In communications, we've moved to weekly updates during this milder weather for snow and ice control, but we will continue to keep the community updated. If residents have concerns, I do encourage them to call 311. And just looking at the trends from Access GP over the last couple of weeks, they have still been, with the warmer weather, looking at some ice control as well as overland water. And again, that's a great service for residents, is to call 311, and we can action those items and investigate immediately. So with that, I'd happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Are there any questions for CEO Burke? None online and none here, so you got off lightly. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to Investment and Strategy Committee. And do you want to introduce that, please?
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. As discussed previously, back in November, we were going to bring back measures to discuss the creation of a Housing and Homeless Advisory Committee. We've also brought forward other minor adjustments to this bylaw. And with that, I'd introduce Ms. Pinnock.
Okay. The chair is yours, and introduce both yourselves so that we know who we're talking with.
Good morning. Kim Pinnock, Director of Legend Exec Services.
Melissa Tucker, our Social Policy Manager with Housing and Community Development.
As CAO Bork had shared, Council reviewed a report on the establishment of a Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee last fall. Council directed administration to bring back amendments to Bylaw C-1422 following engagement with the Community Advisory Board on Housing and Homelessness. The Housing and Community Development team conducted the engagement, and the results are in the What We Heard report attached to this staff report. As this particular bylaw is managed within Ledge Services, the department reviewed the bylaw in full and is proposing amendments not only related to the establishment of the Housing and Homelessness Committee, but also some additional amendments that relate to housekeeping, adjustments to the names and some of the committees, and also adding in the General Appeal Board, which is a quasi-judicial board approved by Council to hear and adjudicate appeals as defined by the General Appeal Board bylaw C-1469 and the Healthcare Attraction and Retention Task Force supporting healthcare attraction and retention strategy. Both of these additions have been approved through previous council motions made since this bylaw was brought forward in 2023. So Melissa Tucker, our Social Policy Manager, is here today and can answer specific questions on the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee, and I'll do my best to answer any questions related to the bylaw overall. And with that, we're happy to take any questions.
Okay, any questions from committee? Seems to be quite clear there. Councillor Auger.
Thank you. Just one question now. This committee, is this separate from the current CAB, or is it brought together?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So this committee still incorporates the same business as CAB, but it kind of expands its scope a little bit to be the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee. So it'll still have the same mandate as the original CAB to meet our reaching home requirements, funding requirements, but it'll kind of expand the scope of ways in which council could utilize the committee in terms of recommendations around kind of any housing and homelessness projects in the community.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? None online. You can go ahead. There's 3 different documents in there. Where is somebody going to address those? Go ahead, Mr. Bressie.
Sorry. So I'm still a little bit. So I'm confused about the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee in terms of the recommendations that I saw were council's not voting members, but this says council are voting members. So could you just So why are we suggesting that the councillors are voting members instead of non-voting members there?
Thank you, through the chair. So administration still brought forward the same proposed bylaw, and that with the understanding then that we would present the feedback that we received from CAB, with the understanding that it is ultimately council's decision as to whether there should be 2 voting members. I can say that the recommendation from CAB is that council members be removed as voting members, and potentially those two spaces could be reserved for representatives from the nonprofit sector and or the faith community. We could leave it kind of open, that based upon kind of that what we heard report that's at the end of your report is one of the suggestions, and so that amendment could be put forward.
Gotcha. So it's 2 council members as voting members are in this report because that's consistent with previous direction we've given, and you'd want us to change that, but that's not necessarily because that's what administration thinks it should be, if I'm summarizing that correctly.
Through the chair, yes, that was administration's original proposal. And then, yeah, based upon the CAB recommendations, council could decide as to whether they would like to change that.
Awesome. Thank you.
CEO Burke, you had a comment? Okay. There were a number of amendments in the second report. C1422D. You haven't mentioned that at all, so I'm just curious. There are 3 attachments to this document.
Through the chair, that's the marked up version. So it shows the changes that the amendments that would be made. As my colleague Ms. Tucker was mentioning, under section 14, where the community, the Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee is listed, that would be where any amendments for that particular committee, if committee wishes to recommend council to make amendments there. The other additions are, as I mentioned, the addition of the quasi-judicial board, the healthcare task force, and then some of the other just housekeeping amendments.
Okay. And which would you like us to deal with first? We're going to deal with CAB first and then go back and look at all the committees, or?
It is the will of the committee. The other ones were previously, the concepts were approved. We're just formalizing into the bylaw. The one which we were seeking specific direction on is the replacement to CAB. With moving this to council, they would all move forward. But if there are specific amendments, I would suggest have some motions from committee for that.
Okay. And go ahead. You've got your mic on there, Mr. Bressie.
Yeah, sure. I am definitely happy to move that we change the 2. I know there's some conversation about potentially adding some members too. I don't know if I'm ready to make that motion right now, but I will make the motion that we, in the Advisory Board on Homelessness, the 2 council members are non-voting members. And just to speak to that, I think that this board does occasionally make actual funding agreements, and I think if there's 2 members of council that are voting on that, then all of council gets held accountable to that if we're not truly delegating it. And if 2 members of the council are voting on it, all 9 of us are being held accountable to that decision. And then I want all 9 of us to have a vote. I think that if it's truly something we're trying to delegate to another committee, then we should truly delegate it to the community members that are there, not a subset of council that's also there. So I think it would be prudent to make these non-voting members.
Okay, thank you. And is that your motion then?
Yeah.
Okay.
If it's clear to the secretary? Yeah.
Okay, we'll entertain that motion. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Councillor O'Connor. I support Councillor Bressy's intent here. I guess for me, it comes to a bigger question of why council is there at all. Non-voting is the option if we want council members there. That's my preference. But it brings me to the question of why elected officials are there at all. And remind me, I guess, a question for administration, is it a requirement or is this just based on previous work that have been done?
Thank you, through the chair. It is not a requirement. It's just kind of been historically that there has been a non-voting council member there to be able to report back to council on what was discussed.
And I guess if I could, Chair O'Connor, my thought around this is we have a CKC advisory committee that has no council members. We have other advisory type committees that have no council members. And there's a little bit of an inconsistency, in my opinion. Appreciate the great work that our volunteers representing our community do in regards to establishing and bringing their feedback to the table as an advisory committee. Not quite sure I understand the role of what 2 elected officials are doing at that committee. So just something for thought. Happy to support these motions today till we get to council for a further discussion.
Okay, Councillor Bressy.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the difference for me would be twofold. Number one, just as important as I think the other committees are, I think all of them do important work, but housing and homelessness is both a major expense, but also a very high priority in the community. So I think that it warrants more council scrutiny, but also for the outputs I've seen of those other committees are very much more operational than this one. I think this one really does do more actual policy work that's more relevant to the direct work council than those other committees. So I think there is warrants treated differently. I'd be okay with potentially not having 2 councillors on it, but if we're not going to have councillors on it, then I'd suggest that we put into the terms of reference once annual or twice annual report back to council so that we're getting a formal report back from this body. So if we're not sending people there, then I'd like to have some sort of formal linkage with them. Because for me, it is a different policy-based body than some of the other committees.
Seeing as how I have sat on the committee for the last couple of years, I thought it was important that we had some representation of council there, just so that people understand that now we're doing a transition where the city is involved in this committee, and if the rest of the board doesn't want council there as voting members, I still think having someone to report back to city council as a non-voting member. Would you accept that as a friendly amendment?
Sorry, my apologies, Chair O'Connor. I was reading the engagement report closely, and I'm not quite sure what specific amendment you're suggesting.
I'm suggesting that we still have a city councillor at least to be able to report back to city council.
Yeah, so what my amendment is that we've still got the 2 councillors there, but they're non-voting members, so it's still
okay, so
be
it
going
is
there.
True? Okay, thank you. If you're happy with the motion, I'd like to call a question unless there's any other dialogue.
Councillor O'Connor?
Councillor Berg, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So with the two motions, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think one of the things that we're trying to address, amongst others, is CAB, from what I understood, was not consistently meeting quorum. With the amendment and then going from voting to non-voting, do we believe that this will solve that issue if it is an issue?
Thank you, through the chair. I do think that, rebuilding the committee and through the recruitment process and everything, and kind of reclarification of the, expectations for attendance that we'll be asking in the application process, even ensuring that people are able to understand that regular attendance is needed. I'm very hopeful that we'll be solving the quorum issues.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, well, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks, Chair O'Connor. I just wanted to clarify. I see the motion directed administration to amend the bylaw. My question would be if this motion is passed, the revised bylaw then would go to committee, would fall under the committee recommending council for the 3 readings of that bylaw. Is that correct?
From what I understand, Chief Burke.
Maybe the city clerk could answer that, please.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, when committee amends this bylaw and then you make the second motion recommending council give the 3 readings as amended, it will have that amendment in it when it comes to council on Monday.
Okay, thanks. And so Chair O'Connor, I won't support the second motion. I do believe that council has in regards to governance expectations, that the updates coming through administration to council in a formalized process would be better than having 2 non-voting representatives on the community advisory board. We are in a situation right now where we have individuals, one individual in particular on council who has significant knowledge of this sort of subject matter. However, that may not always be the way. And so to have elected officials there simply to represent council when they may not have that significant depth of knowledge in regards to a subject area, I don't think serves the rest of council well. So happy for committee to put this forward, and if it passes, happy to discuss it when it comes to all of council under the other readings.
So if I hear correctly, Mayor Clayton, the motion by Mr. Bressie to council representative from voting to not in voting, you're not in support of?
Exactly.
Okay. So I will then call the question on whether or not we go from voting to non-voting. Okay, that's tied, so it is defeated. Sorry, go ahead. We will go back to the original motion.
Yeah, so another discussion another thing that I'm curious about committee's thoughts on is, I noticed that there was feedback in the report about the representatives there might have, we might not have the full spectrum of people we want. And so I wonder, I'm happy to make a formal motion, but would love to test my colleagues out if there'd be appetite to say up to 2 other community representatives, which would give us ability, if we so choose, to appoint a few extra people to fill out CAB or fill out this advisory board when we feel we need it. I don't know if I want to get prescriptive and say, hey, we've got 1 for a faith-based community, 1 for a nonprofit, like they said, but I think it would be good to give us optionality.
Okay, so what you're saying then on motion, committee recommend council to give 3 readings to bylaw C 1422D being an amendment to the boards and committees bylaw, adding an optional 2 members. I hope I'm not putting.
Yeah, so under membership of the Housing Homeless Advisory Committee, you've got in section A sub 2, you've got your A, B, C, D of the people we're appointing to that, and then you could add an H that says up to 2 additional community representatives, which would allow council to appoint 0 or 1 or 2.
Okay, Thank you. I think that makes sense. Any other comments? Mayor Clayton.
Sorry, Councillor Bressie, just so I know, I'm trying to figure out where you are. Which doc? Are you in the amendment or are you on the markup?
I'm in the non-marked up, or sorry, I'm looking in the marked up copy.
And can you quote the section again for me, please?
So it is 14.3 sub A sub 2. Then I'm suggesting we add a sub H.
Yeah, just Chair O'Connor, I absolutely support this. I do want to come back to the council representation as well, but I support this, the intent of Councillor Bressie at this point. Thanks.
And yeah, I'll make that motion if the chair will permit.
Okay, and so is that the number 1 motion that is listed, or the number 3 that's an amendment because it doesn't refer to section H that Councillor Bressie brought up?
That would be 3 in here. I was saying how it could be implemented, but the motion 3 that our secretary has captured would capture what I'm trying to do.
Okay, then I would suggest to give 3 readings to bylaw C 1422D be added to that, correct? Okay, so we'll do number 3 first, then come back to the main motion.
Yeah.
Thank you for that clarity. We'll vote on number 3, which is, okay, it's in there. And that carries unanimously, which brings us back to the main motion.
No, before you go there, I mentioned that I had a motion.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, Mayor Clayton.
Thanks. I would move the committee amend the bylaw under Housing and Homelessness Advisory Committee to remove item 14.3A to city council members. Speaking to it, as I mentioned before, I think that setting up this organization, or this committee rather, for success in the future, knowing that there are strong support through our administrative team, indicating, as mentioned by Councillor Bressie, that regular updates would be expected by not having council members there. I don't think this is a role for council, although this is a significant priority as identified over last term and this term by council. I don't think that elected officials have a role in this organization, or this advisory committee rather. Thank you, and I encourage my committee members to support this motion.
Okay, I find myself in a difficult position here, and I do think there's a role for council to be on this committee, so we will call the question on this. Oh, sorry, Councillor Burke.
Yeah, thanks, Chair O'Connor. I don't know where I sit on this, but I will vote in favor of it to take it to council for further debate.
So that changes basically what the motion is. Then, are you proposing an amendment?
Not at all. I'm just supporting the motion so that the greater council can debate it later.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So we'll be going to item number 4 and call the question on number 4. Okay, it's carried 3-1. And do we have to go back to number 1? What's that? Yes, we need someone to make the motion. Mayor Clayton.
Thanks. I would move that committee recommend council give 3 ratings to bylaw C-1422D, being an amendment to the board and committee bylaw as amended.
Okay. Okay, and as amended, I will read it again. Committee amend. Okay, we're going in.
Bressie in favor.
Wow, we made something more complicated, but we made it through. So that passed unanimously. Thank you very much, ladies. Okay, we have no correspondence, no other business, no bylaws, and council of policies. Looking for someone to deal with outstanding items list. CEO Burke.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. 1398 will assign to Ms. Bieberdorf for Q1, and I would ask that those identified for Ms. Bailey be amended with my name for the time being, and no other further changes. So as amended would be the recommendation.
Okay, I entertain a motion from my member, Councillor Bressy. Whoops, you tried to get in there, Burke. You were a little late. Mayor Clayton, your vote? Okay, there we go, and that was carried. We'll now adjourn and take a couple of minutes before we go to the next committee.